They figure that fucking Romanian, he can do it. The next thing you know, they can do it.
Yeah.
If a Romanian can do it. Whatever we do here, it's nothing. I mean, being in a concentration camp,
Yeah. I want to talk about that
they're
too.
gonna kill you. I'm just a kid.
Yeah. Well,
I ran away from the
I think we
German.
we're gonna set up for a minute or two, but yeah.
I was recording that. I didn't know. I didn't know.
No, that's
it
fine.
was starting.
You want me to do a clap, right? That'll.
Yeah, do it. Do it where all the cameras can see. Just so.
Probably like, just like,
And it doesn't have to be loud. Like you're gonna hear it. You know.
Yeah.
yeah, maybe just like a snap,
Just
like
like
that,
that.
soft, look like a soft clap. Come on,
Alright.
right.
Okay.
That even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Opa,
If I could just.
do you mind doing a where you're rolling?
No, I'm not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
Roll.
Let's roll.
All right.
Let's roll.
Speed.
You can turn off and on if you need to, and we can figure it out later.
Yeah. Yeah.
You do what's best for you.
All right. We're gonna start.
Okay, he doesn't have his hearing aids, he lost them, so you may want to
Okay.
clear.
Okay.
Sweetie, have fun.
You can hear me when I talk like this loud, right?
Well, speak a little louder.
You can hear me when I talk this
Now
loud?
I can hear you.
Okay, I'll talk that loud. We're rolling, Speedy.
Rolling.
Can I get you to do a clap? Just like a loud clap? Is that good?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. And we're good. It's so the sound knows where you are with the video. I guess my first question is how you started with soccer.
How I started soccer?
Yeah.
Well, my father that raised me, my uncle, because I was raised by my uncle, he was the chief of service for the Romanian railroads. He was the boss.
He was chief of service for the Romanian what?
Railroads, the trains. I mean, there was the director general, the director, and then him. He was running the railroads. And I was his son. So naturally, wherever I went, I was his son. So you name it. You want to drive that locomotive? Can I?
Sure.
You know, anything. Because he was the son of the guy that essentially owned the things.
Yeah.
Well, not really own them, but he ran the whole thing.
Yeah.
He was the man. And so whatever he said, they did. I mean, I used to go to the train, they would take me to the locomotive, and I'd meet the guy that was shoveling corn, coal, to make the train run.
Yeah.
I met these people. Nobody met them, but I want to meet them.
Yeah.
And because I was the son of the boss, I could go any place and do anything. And if I didn't want to go, I didn't have to go, because I was Mr. Negoesco's son.
And he got you started with soccer.
Well, he took me wherever I wanted to go. And the railroads had top-notch soccer players. Rapid Bucharest was one of the best teams in Europe at the time. And that was his team. And I was the son of the boss. my uncle ran the thing, and he adopted me. And so I was like considered his son. He raised me since I was a year and a half when my mother died. He took care of me. My father was a sea captain, so he was never home. So my uncle, who was working with the railroads at the time, he was chief accountant for the railroads. He says, I'll take him.
Yeah. In
So-
Romania, though.
Romania. So he took care of me. So I would see my father, but very little. The one that I saw the most was my uncle and his wife.
Yeah.
My mother, she passed away right after I was born. So I had no real mother. I had a stepmother. Well, naturally, she was my stepmother, so we never had much affinity or anything. So I always kept track of the other person, the other brother, who had a wife, and she treated me like her son. So she was, for all practical purposes, she was my mother. She essentially raised me because I had no mother.
Yeah.
So she raised me, and
So through the railroad, you got into soccer when you were a kid?
yeah, well, so the railroad had a team. Rapid Bucharest was the best team in Eastern Europe. That was the railroad's team. And of course, I was the coach's son. I mean, the coach's son, the guy in charge of the team, among other things. He was my father. So I was the boss's son. I was with the players. Nobody was with the players but me. Why? Because I was the coach's son.
And you watched them?
Everybody, and all the players were good to me, and attendful and everything else, because I was the boss's son. So they treated me like their own kid. They really treated me well. And they say, you always like to be outside? Yeah. Where you can go. I would go outside the car. I'd get on top of the car.
The train car?
Why? At the train. Because I was the boss's son. I could go to the locomotive and talk to the mechanic and tell him, can you go faster? Sure, no problem, for me. Yeah. So they done everything for me because I was the boss's son.
And so
I was just a kid. And so I got used to that. I that only lasted a few years, 3 years.
But you hung around the players during that time. And you
Oh,
started
yeah.
to pick
I was
up,
with the players all the time.
You picked up the game from them, though.
I was the boss's son.
Yeah, so they were nice to you, but you watched them play, and that kind of made
I was with them all the time. And they would say, come on, kick the ball, Steve. I didn't belong there. But I could kick the ball because I was the boss's son. And they would use me if they needed an extra guy. Steve, you play there. You take so-and-so's place. So the next thing you know, I get involved with the players of the best team in the country, Rapid Bucharest. Who am I? I'm just a freaking kid, that's what I am. But I have access to the best players in the country. Why? Because my father, my uncle, was the one that paid their salary, dealt with them, sold them, bought them, and everything else. So I was just tagging along, you know. And because of that, they paid a lot of attention to me. I made a national team. I was good. Fortunately for me, I was a very good player. Where I grew up in a part of Bucharest, they had two of the best players in the country. Actually, all of them played for them. Rapid Bucharest was the best. And I was the boss's son. Well, all my players were my friends, theoretically. Why? Because I was the boss's son, that's why, and I was a kid. So they treated me like they would treat their little brother. You know, I was treated very nice, kind, and paid much attention. And they would say, "Come on, oh, we need the next time. Steve, you wanna play here?" So I got involved in a lot of training sessions because they needed an extra person. Who was the extra person? Me, because I was around.
But then after that, you started playing on your own.
Well, I got better as I grew up, and I played junior ball. When I got to be 17, I played what would be called first division. They needed players. And I was big enough and very good. Well, I learned from the best. And the next thing you know, they're making the selection team for the youth team. They picked me as a fullback, reserve fullback, you know. I was not the first 11, the first 14. But I was nobody. And I was only 14 years old, 15 years old. And I made the squad. So I'd go with them wherever they went to play friendly games. And they would put me in 15, 20, 25 minutes and play. And every game, because they were friendlies, because they could do that. And I was the boss's son, theoretically.
Yeah.
They had no other children. I was the only one that was allowed to have a child there. Why? Because my father was the boss of the program.
Yeah.
That's why. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been allowed. So I was very fortunate.
So when you were 15, though, after you had started playing, is what happened? You were
Well, when I got to be 15, I played youth soccer for the junior team, and I played as a substitute. They would bring me around to practice with the adults. But I was still not first division player. I was a kid. But when I got to be 18, bingo, they put me in, they started me as a fullback.
But before that is when the Nazis came, right?
What?
The Nazis came when you were 15, correct?
The Nazis?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the Nazis came in a country.
What happened, though? What happened to
Well,
you?
they at first they were not involved because we had the fascists, and the fascists were pro-German, and they kind of ran everything, and they treated me okay, so I had no problem with them. But the thing went on, and I got to be 18. Well, now I could play with the grown-ups. So they actually had me playing first team. I was a junior by their standards. I was under 18. I was 17 when I played my first game. Didn't play much. I played about 25 minutes of one game. Then the next game I played about 30 minutes.
But what about when you were captured?
The
That
what?
happened before, right? When you were 15, you were put in the concentration camp, correct?
Yeah.
And
When I played with the adult team in a prison camp. But this was when they picked me. I was about 15, yeah, and the Germans took me in
how? What happened? Why did they grab you?
because I was an American, and because I was considered an American by my papers, although I didn't speak English or anything. It didn't make any difference. They had to get rid of me, so they put me in the concentration camp. They put me in a place where I could play ball if I wanted to, but I couldn't play ball because I was an American. At the local level, I could play, but as soon as it came out of the local level, I couldn't play because anytime they got any publicity, I was the enemy.
So they let you play when you were in the camp
Oh, yeah.
for their team in the camp.
Well, I could play with the best in the camp. Let's put it that way. And when one camp played another camp, I could play for my camp. But, and that only lasted maybe one spring, summer, fall. 1 year. Started in January and lasted until about September. That's when I was able to play with the adults.
In the camps.
And they liked me. And then that's when I ran away.
Can we talk about that? How you ran away?
Yeah. Well, I was a schöne Fußballer by the Germans. They gave me a lot of freedom, which I wasn't supposed to get. But I was a soccer player. Where the hell were you going to go? This is Europe. Where are you going to go? You're going to take the boat? Oh, you got to be kidding. First of all, there are very few boats going anyplace. Second, what boat to go where? Well, you could go to North Africa. You're going to go to Africa? Well, you're nuts. There's nothing there. It was not like today. So I couldn't essentially run away. What I did do is I did go to Spain because Franco was elected as chief. And he was a nationalist. And he dealt with the Germans, or the Germans dealt with him. And so when I was around him, I had freedom. Why? Because I was theoretically a fascist.
But how did you get out of the camp?
What do you mean, get out?
Well, you were in the camp, right?
Yeah.
You were a Shone foosballer, but you escaped somehow. Can you tell?
Eventually, yeah. Eventually I escaped. That's when I ran away.
How did you run away? What was the process?
Well, the process then at the time I played in Italy.
For the
Friendly games.
for the camp.
Yeah. And I ran away from there. I went to North Africa because there were some soccer players in North Africa, and I knew a coach in Africa. So I could go there, and they were not dealing with Europe. They were not enemies. They dominated, but they had nothing to do with the people from the other countries. Don't forget, this is new world. This is war is just starting a little bit here and there, and so they don't know what the hell they're doing half the time. So as far as I was concerned, I could play for my town team.
This is after you had escaped.
No, this was when I was playing for them. No, this was I wasn't.
So
I
the
didn't
camp
run away.
let
I didn't
you-
run away. I was still under their control until about 16 and a half. And then I ran away. See, then I went to Spain, and Franco was running Spain at the time, the general. And from Spain, I went to Portugal. I mean, I played games, and I made friends in Portugal. So they said, well, you can come over here because they were neutral. They were not in a war. And you can play in our place. So I went there to play. And what was the name of it? God bless it. I was going to play for a team, and I never got to play for that team as the season was about to start, because I had the chance to run away to Africa. And I ran away to Africa, North Africa. Well, now they had no control over me, Europe. I was a free agent. I could go any place I wanted,
Once you got to Africa.
Yeah. And as far as release was concerned about this, that didn't exist because of the way politically things were being run. They were not dealing anymore.
But how did you get away from them? You were in Spain.
Oh, you mean how do I run
playing
to?
a game, but how did you get away from the?
Well, I went to North Africa.
But what was the opportunity? The camp took you. To a game?
When I was in the camp, I was able to play against. I was able to play in Egypt. I played a couple games in Egypt. And the games I played in Egypt, we had teams from other North African countries that were non-German. They had nothing to do with Germany or the war. They were kind of neutral. But they were trying to keep away from the war, so to speak. And so these guys saw me play. This is what you could play so-and-so. I said, yeah, you could play. So they fixed me to play for a Spanish team from Spain that was in North Africa, which was a Spanish colony. So I went over there to play, and I played, I think, 3 games or something like that. And from there, I was able to run away to South America.
From North Africa to South
From
America.
North Africa, South America. Because the ships were coming by there. So you could go where the ship would go. You had there was no railroads, planes, nothing. So I got into they got me to, the boat got me to Venezuela. In Venezuela, there were 3 Venezuelans. There was the Germans, there was the French and the Italian or something like that, or Spanish. And so I got to Venezuela, and I figure, well, it's a free country. It was. They couldn't control it. So I figure I could go to Brazil.
Yeah.
So I did go to Brazil. I played a couple of games. Venezuela played Brazil. I mean, the team that I played for played Brazil. It was friendly practice and so forth. So somebody suggested, well, why don't you go to Brazil? So I figured, yeah, it's a great idea. So I knew some people from Colombia. This is northern part of South America. And so I went to them
In Colombia.
in Colombia. And I stayed there. And they said, well, you can stay here. And what are you going to do? I said, I think I'm going to go to school. I figured I can go to college. And I started to go to college. And I was now in South America. I was in Colombia.
You went to college in South America?
Yeah. I went there to school. No, I was going to go to school. This is the beginning of summer. So the team took me in. I played for them, and I was going to go to the university there. And I didn't know what's going to happen. And I didn't get involved more than that. But here now I was a free whatever.
By then,
But there was one place I could go where nobody had a hold over anything. It was Mexico. Then.
yeah. But hold on. When you were in the camp, you were able to get away because you were
Which camp?
The concentration camp.
The one in Europe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were able to get away because you were a good soccer player.
I was a schöne footballer, yes.
What does schöne Fußballer mean?
Schöne means beautiful. Schöne, a beautiful soccer player. I had a nice touch. Because when I was a kid in Romania, when I was 11 or 12, I had Steinbach, my German coach. And he was a stickler for the best. That's the way you trap. That's the way you kick. You kick this way, not that way. You don't do this, you do that. So he taught you to play not only the game, but the best way to play the game. So when you played, you knew that you had him as coach, because he was ahead, and he was kind of chicken shit. He wanted done his way, and he did a lot of things his way. That's what he did, and the Federation left him alone.
But he made you good because he was a stickler.
Yes, everything that he did was good, and that made it lucky for me to be able to get a guy like that. That's my boss.
Yeah. But because you were so good, because of what you had been taught, and because the guards appreciated your skill, you were able to get away from them.
I was able to get away from them. I went as far as France. I was playing in southern France for, I think it was Saint-Étienne, which was a team from Paris. And I was playing for Marseille, and not Marseille, what's the name of the town? Southern France. Anyway, so I ran away to England because we had games, friendlies of, I don't remember. And I got to southern England. And who did I play with? I was going to play with, Jesus, because this was very temporary. You know, so-and-so would like you to play for them. Okay, you know. So you go over there and play a game, and then you go someplace else. Because we didn't have papers. We didn't have, like today. It wasn't that well organized. There was a war going on. So you play whatever I played wherever you could play. If you could find a place.
Let's wait until the...
You can unplug that. Let's unplug it.
Oh, okay, if you need to answer it, that's
No.
fine.
Nope.
Let's,
Backtrack here.
So anyway, I played.
That should be good, right?
yeah.
Unplug.
No, it's
I
unavoidable.
meant to say that. I knew it was going to ring. I was upstairs going.
I was able to play.
Okay, well, hold on. You want to reset? We'll just do another clap.
Yeah.
We're going to pause it and then...
What?
We're just going to stop it and reset it.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
Reframing it too.
Yeah.
On this side for a bit.
Yeah.
It's still recording.
Okay. Stop and then start it again.
Rolling.
You're speeding? Addison?
Yep.
Okay. Opa, do you mind doing a little clap?
You talking to me?
Yeah, a clap again? Good? Okay. Let's talk about why is soccer important to you?
Why is it important?
I mean, I understand why you got started with it, but why You played soccer and coached soccer your whole life.
Yeah.
I mean, why does
Because
a person keep going to something?
Because I got better as coach. I was a good coach. I was better than anybody else. So I got figure that they didn't have any coaches, so why don't we start a school? I started the coaches school. I started the league. I'm the one that got them rolling. Before me, when I came to California, we had no soccer. There was some kids playing in high school, but there was no league. There was nothing except adults. They had a few teams of adults playing. And here comes me, and I get organized properly and started a youth league. Well, because we started the youth league, now we had teams all over the place. I started one in this town, one in that town, that town. Who? The people from the town. They had baseball, basketball, and football. Well, not everybody could play these three main sports. So the majority of athletes that they had were not good for the three main sports. They were not big enough. Only 6 or 8% are big enough to play. The rest were just playing because they had to play, because it was offered by the school. But they never got any place. So I decided that it would be a good thing. Why don't we start soccer? Why? Because the size doesn't matter in soccer. You can be very small and be very good, and you can play with the big boys. So the next thing you know, I started a soccer team, and people would come to me, and I would explain to them, how to start a team and all that sort of stuff. And then I made a school where everybody could come, and I would teach them how to coach. And I did that. I went several places and taught them how to coach. Then they became coaches, and they start coaching kids, which was not done before. And that caught on and got bigger. And that's what we have today. That thing just grew, and that's all because with what I did. This is all my work. Because I did what Brown was the one that my coach in Romania. He was very well organized. And what are you gonna do? You gotta do this. How are you gonna teach him this, that? So the next thing you know, I was very well organized, not because of me, but because what Brown taught me when I was a kid. I was using the same thing now here. And it caught on.
It did.
And then the priests came out. And I said, well, why don't you have the priests teach them? Yeah, but they're not coaches. They don't have to be coaches. Let's get them started, and they'll get somebody to coach. And so the priests got involved in developing the coaching that started to coach the kids in the school.
All over California.
Oh, this was in South America.
Oh.
Yeah.
The priests in South America, but
Yeah.
you started camps in California.
Yes.
And that was later.
This is, yeah.
But how did you? How
Well,
did you get
soccer was already here. They had it back east. And they had German league, they had an English league, they had French, they had Italians. They had teams. And the teams belong to the nationality, usually. So the next thing you know, everybody has a team. The Spanish have a team, the Romanians have a team, the Italians, the Portuguese, the Belgians, everybody has a team.
all in America?
Yeah, because you had all these people that came here from Europe.
But it wasn't on the West Coast yet.
Well, no, not much on the West Coast. Well, there were not many people here at the time. There was nothing. You went to St. Louis, and after that there was nothing.
What about San Francisco? What was San Francisco like?
Nothing. It was in California. You got San Francisco and Los Angeles. Why? Because you had all these foreigners that came from all over the place. So they made a team. So then in San Francisco you had the Germans, you had the Italians, you had Portuguese. They had several groups. They were basically nationalities that that played. And then it caught on with a large group of the Americans. A lot of these were kids of Portuguese, but the Portuguese that played soccer, that he used to be a player, and he decided to be a coach, or to coach a team. So because everybody was a foreigner. Everybody came from some country. Well, they all played ball in their countries.
Yeah.
So they could always find a guy, a Portuguese, or a Spaniard, or a Southern Frenchman, or an Italian, or a Sicilian, or a Greek, that wherever he came from, they had soccer. So they started coaching.
But you started coaching,
I started coaching them.
and you coached at USF.
Oh yeah, but that
This
was
is later, right?
yeah, that was yeah.
Oh.
And then I started the San Francisco Junior Soccer League, and I started the coaching school.
Yeah, okay. And then after that is when after you had been coaching the junior league for a while, then you started at USF.
Oh yeah. When I coached youth soccer, and the reason USF got it is because USF had a lot of foreigners. Who went to USF? Well, people came from California. Where they come from? A lot of them came from Europe.
Yeah.
Where? Well, everybody played soccer there. So the next thing you know, you had in San Francisco, you had the Germans, the Italians, the Portuguese, the English, the Scots. They all had teams. Why? Because of foreigners that came to live here.
But they all played at USF.
And a lot of them went to college. So those that went to college played. So there some played at USF, some played at San Francisco State, some played at Cal, Cal had a hell of a team. Shit. They had their best first division professional from Spain, from Chile and Peru and Colombia. Those were friends of mine. We played, they also had leagues on Sundays because the school didn't play the year around.
Yeah.
They only played 2-3 months.
How long were you at USF? Coaching at USF?
Since 1951,
You started coaching in 1951 at USF.
yeah.
And when did you stop? 2000?
Well, I never really stopped. I stopped coaching, and then I started coaching coaches.
After?
Yeah, to get them involved. And these coaches became teachers. Some taught the junior high school, and so forth.
What about, why did soccer, I understand a lot of people in Europe played the game,
Yeah.
but soccer was something easy to play, right? You could do it with anything, and that's part of the reason why it was so common, because you didn't need all the gear that you need for other sports.
Yeah, but it was a very difficult game to play.
Of course.
It needed a lot of talent. I mean, each individual. But there were enough people among the immigrants that came that played ball, men especially, no girls. And it caught on. The next thing you know, they made it the game of the country.
Which country?
Each country.
Oh, every country.
We had
Except
in California, we had a league.
Yeah.
We had several leagues. We had a league in Northern California, a league in Southern California. Then we had one around Portland, and one around Washington. Wherever you had foreigners, which you had all over the place, they started a soccer team. So the next thing you know, we have leagues all over the place. And they got sponsors. A lot of these sponsors they were all business people. They all had money, and they all had teams.
I don't know, what is something that you learned from getting good? Are you tired?
But
Are you getting tired?
no, I was just,
It's okay.
I don't know what
If you're tired, it's okay. Is there anything that you learned about getting good at something? Again, getting good at one thing. Because you got great at soccer. You were great at soccer, and not just playing it, but coaching. And as far
What was
as
my sport?
yeah, but it easily could have been, for other people, it's something else. What is there about
Oh, why did I stick?
keeping your whole life to one thing?
Well, because it got more and more demand of help came through soccer. So we got involved, and we made we had a church league. You know, we talked to the priests, and they talked to people in their parish. So the next thing you know, every parish in San Francisco had a soccer team. Why? Because parishioners wanted to play. Why? Because a lot of parishioners are foreigners. And that was their game. They didn't play baseball or basketball. They all spoke different languages. There was a time in San Francisco where you had a portion that was the Germans. They had the North Beach, you have the Italians. Then you had the Sunset, you had the French. So you had 4 or 5 nationalities that already established themselves as a group.
The Chinese were there too, right?
And the Chinese too, yeah, Chinatown. But they never played because they always worked. They always played for non-Chinese teams. But they didn't play for Chinese teams because they didn't have any. They were too busy working.
So San Francisco's always been all the cultures, everything mixed together.
And it picked up. The game picked up because it was good, was cheap. And I used to sell that. I used to tell them, where else can you play? Well, just go play. Yeah, but I don't have any shoes. You don't have to. You got tennis shoes. Yeah, but I slide, so you slide. We even had portable cleats that you could put, like rubber bands. You put it on your shoes, then you can play. So the game grew because it was cheap. And because you didn't need the size. Baseball, basketball, and football
You needed big people.
needed size.
Yeah.
We didn't. So we made it where the others couldn't. And then it got better, and we started the schools. I mean, the Catholics started having coaches in every school to teach the kids how to play. They had the parents. You should see the parents. Some of them, a lot of former top professionals from all over Europe, all over the world, but now living here. And the priest would say, well, Mr. Negoesco, you used to play soccer in Romania. Yeah, but I haven't for the last 10 years. That's all right. So the next thing you know, it'd give you an area to coach a team. So you learn to go back to coaching again. And that's how it picked up.
Well, do you think it seems like it's a natural thing for people to, if you get good at something, is it your duty to teach people?
Well,
Once you've been good at it yourself, then you pass that knowledge on and you teach other people.
well, soccer was a foreign game, but then you had other games here. You had baseball, basketball, and football, which were American inventions.
Yeah.
Nobody in the world played those. We did. We started the organized league. They didn't have a league in Europe. There was no other place. It was Asia, Europe, Africa, nothing. There was nothing there. So the ones that were in the state developed because we had the money.
Yeah.
And we had minorities coming in every day. People, what did you think people from San Francisco came from. It came from here. You be sitting down in a chair like this, and then you find out that you have a thing, leather or something like that. And the next thing you know, you say, I think I'm gonna work in a gym or something and bring in, get organized and make a team. And the other thing that helped was the size. Soccer, anybody could play. If you were football or basketball, you had to have weight or height.
Yeah.
And that didn't, they started out with that. But the kids, when they grew a little older, they learned that they can play soccer. They can't play football anymore.
That's true.
So they start playing soccer. Then that started being picked up early by the parents. That's it.
I hate to cut it, but we have to get back to San Francisco.
What?
We have to get back to San Francisco.
Well, do whatever you have to do.
You guys can cut.
Okay.
Thanks for doing this.
Do you want
Well,
to?
We wanted to do a couple special shots with just the camera. Well, we don't. We got a lot of stuff for the interview,
well,
and I'll talk to you.
you guys
again.
can come another time.
Yeah.
That too.
We might do that. And
I'm not doing anything anyway.
Miles is just gonna get.
You want to pull the shades over there?
We're gonna leave.
We're gonna
leave for now.
we'll leave
We're
it.
just getting. We're just getting
Oh,
two
okay.
shots with you.
We're almost done. Then we'll
Yeah.
do that. But yeah, I'll come back definitely, and
Well, you come back to.
we'll go to USF. I want to go to USF with you.
Well, let me know.
Yeah, I will. I'm still planning that.
You can see my field.
Yeah, that's the idea. That's the idea.
Yeah.
Miles is just gonna take
Actually, to build,
pictures.
I'm the first one to build a field. It's all over the country. They figure that fucking Romanian, he can do it. The next thing you know, they can do it.
Yeah,
If a Romanian can do it.
sure.
You know, you'd be amazed how this country, how people were. Because we had the Germans and we had the English and we had this and that. But a Romanian, who the hell are they? You know? Well, I started it. Then they got involved. And they did a better job. Why? Because they had more people.
Yeah,
Better people, you know.
you were on your own.
Huh?
You were on your own.
Yep.
Can you look up here?
I look at this.
Yeah, this thing on the top.
Oh, yeah.
Or wherever. You don't have to look at just that, but I mean, maybe look into the camera. You wanna look right in the lens?
Look at that.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I make a face there?
Yeah. These are good.